So in our previous discussion, pinag-aralan natin paano ba mag-account ng isang government agency ng mga revenues and disbursements nila. So ngayon, pati na rin sa mga susunod na discussion natin, alamin na natin paano naman nila ina-account yung mga ibang accounts aside from those two. So paano ba nila ina-account yung mga financial asset, inventories, PPE, etc. So for today's video discussion, magpo-focus tayo sa financial asset. So, alamin natin ano ng mga accounts ba yung mag-under sa financial asset and paano ba natin i-account yung mga accounts na to. So, before we proceed to that, let's define first what is financial instrument. So, based on PPSAS 28 paragraph 9, they define financial instrument as any contract that gives rise to both a financial asset of one entity and a financial liability or equity instrument of another entity. So, based from the definition itself, malalaman natin yung characteristic ng isang financial instrument. So, yung characteristics ng isang financial instrument is first, it must have a contract. So, second, kailangan may at least two parties sa contract. And last, or in third, is yung contract mag-a-arise siya ng financial asset sa isang entity and a financial liability or equity instrument to another entity. So, di ba nagsabi based on the definition, di ba sabi mag-a-arise nga daw ng financial asset sa isang entity and financial liability or equity instrument to another entity. So, ano ba yung pagkakaiba ng tatlo na yon? So, let's define first what is financial asset. So, financial asset is any asset that is cash o kaya any asset that is an equity instrument of another entity. It is also any asset that is a contractual right to receive cash or another financial asset from another entity. It is also any asset that is a contractual right to exchange financial instrument with another entity under conditions that are potentially favorable, or a contract that will or may be settled in the entity's own equity instruments. So, bigyan tayo ng example for each. So, pag cash, syempre, yung example niya is cash and cash equivalents. Pag naman yung mga any asset that is equity instrument of another entity, so ito nga yung mga investment in equity, pati na rin yung mga investment in debt securities. So, kapag naman yung mga any asset that is contractual right to receive cash or another financial asset from another entity, ito papasok yung mga receivables as yung mga account receivable, loans receivable, pati na rin yung mga receivable from GOCCs or LGUs. Tapos, pag naman yung mga any asset that is contractual right to exchange financial instrument with another entity under conditions that are potentially favorable, dito papasok yung natawag nating derivatives. So, next, ano naman yung financial liability? So, financial liability is any liability that is a contractual obligation to deliver cash or another financial asset to another entity. So, it is also any liability that is a contractual obligation to exchange financial assets or financial liabilities with another entity under the conditions that are potentially unfavorable to the entity. And lastly, financial liability is any liability that is a contract that will or may be settled in the entity's own equity instrument. How about naman yung equity instrument? So, ano naman ba yun? So, equity instrument are any contract that evidences a residual interest in the assets of an entity after deducting all of its liabilities. So, I should note, the issuer of a financial instrument should classify the instrument or its component parts on initial recognition as a financial asset, a financial liability, on equity instrument in accordance with the substance of the contractual arrangement and the definitions of a financial asset, financial liability, and an equity instrument. So, alam na natin yung difference ng isang financial asset, financial liability, and equity instrument. So, balik na tayo. So, mas mag-focus tayo sa financial asset. So, since alam na natin kung ano yung financial asset, alamin na natin paano ba nire-recognize and mini-measure yung isang financial asset. So, yung initial recognition ng isang financial asset is when an entity becomes a party to the contractual provisions of the instrument. So pag naging party nga sa isang contractual provisions of the instrument, then mag-arise na or mag-recognize na ng financial asset. And once we recognize financial asset, para natin siya i-measure. So it is measured at fair value plus transaction cost. But should note, di lahat ng financial asset should be recorded or should be measured at fair value plus transaction cost. So yung exception dito is yung mga financial assets at fair value through surplus or deficit. So, bakit? Kasi pag yung mga financial assets at fair value through surplus or deficit, instead na i-capitalize ang transaction cost, is in-expense nila yun. So, note ko lang, yung financial assets at fair value through surplus or deficit, ito rin yung tinatawag nating financial assets at fair value through profit or loss, so FVTPL. So, ito lang yung tawag pagdating government agency, pero pag sa business entity, ang tawag sa kanya is yung financial assets at fair value through profit or loss. So, di ba? So, yung financial assets initially measured at fair value plus transaction cost. So, ano na ba yung transaction cost? So, transaction costs are incremental costs that are directly attributable to the acquisition, issue, or disposal of a financial instrument. So, an incremental cost is one that will not have been incurred if the entity had acquired, issued, or disposed of financial instrument. So, in short, lahat ng mga expenses na incur natin, yung mga expenses na incur nung acquisition tayo, in-issue, or disposal of a financial instrument, so they are considered as transaction costs. So, transaction costs include fees and commissions paid to agents, advisors, brokers, and dealers. Transaction cost also includes yung mga levies by regulatory agencies and security exchanges, pati na rin yung mga transfer taxes and duties. So, alam na natin paano kailan mag-recognize ng financial asset and paano natin siya i-measure. So, punta na tayo sa iba't ibang types ng financial asset. So, kanina, di ba, dinidefine natin yung financial asset, di ba nagbigay ako ng example? And yung apat example na yun, doon tayo magpo-focus for today's video discussion. So, let's proceed to cash and cash equivalent. So, they define cash as it comprises cash on hand, cash in bank, and cash treasury accounts. So, from this definition alone, makikita na natin yung difference ng cash ng isang government agency and ng cash ng isang business entity. So, di ba kasi, kapag sa business entity, they define cash as it comprises cash on hand, cash in bank, and pati mga cash funds. So, actually, same lang din naman yun. May ganun din sa government agency. Pero syempre, may nadagdag lang. And ano yun? So, pagdating sa isang government agency, may sila tinatawag na cash treasury accounts. So, itong mga cash treasury accounts na to, dito papasok yung mga cash MDS regular, yung mga cash MDS special, cash MDS trust, tapos ito rin yung mga cash treasury account, yung cash treasury account or agency deposit, mga ganon. So, actually, palagay sa isang government agency yung pag-account ng cash. So, paano nasabi yun? Kasi, sa pag-handle pa lang, mayroon na silang tatawag na cash management system na sinusunod. Tapos, at the same time, yung COA, may din silang nirelease na cash management manual. And nakasulat doon yung mga proper procedures and guidelines in managing and safeguarding cash and cash equivalent. So, paano ba natin ina-account yung cash? So, yung accounting treatment ng cash is same lang sa business entity. So, parang minemeasure natin yung cash at its face value. So, what if may unreleased checks? Ano yung gagawin natin? So, kapag may unreleased checks, i-revert back lang natin siya sa cash. So, ano ba muna yung unreleased checks? So, unreleased checks are checks drawn but not yet given to the payees as of the end of the period. So, in treatment nga siya, pag may unreleased checks is nire-revert back natin to the cash. So, bakit i-revert back sa cash? Kasi nga, itong mga checks na to, draw na sila, pero di pa sila naibibigay sa pay at the end of the period. So, since di pa sila naibibigay sa payee, then paano siya may encash ng isang payee? So, dapat, di dapat ma-extinguish yung accounts payable. So, di ba, kapag nag-drawn kasi, minsan, ang initial entry natin is accounts payable, debit, credit, cash, di ba? Kasi nga, parang, as if, kasi sa atin, inisip natin, nagbayad na tayo. So, i-extinguish na natin yung accounts payable. And since di pa naman siya ibibigay sa payee, then, re-revert back natin yung cash. So, yung entry niya will be cash in bank, local currency account, debit, credit, accounts payable. Kasi dapat hindi pa ma-extinguish yung accounts payable or any liability, other liability account. So, out ko lang, di ba, ginamit natin cash account is cash in bank, local currency, current. Kasi, this is unreleased commercial checks ko. So, if it involves commercial checks, ang gagamitin cash account is yung cash in bank, local currency, current. So, note ko lang din, unreleased checks are not physically canceled. So, parang, for example, at this period, i-revert back natin siya sa cash. Tapos, next period, minsan, i-reverse na natin yung itong entries na ginawa natin. Kasi, pwedeng ang nangyari, na-draw na yung check, pero hindi pa pala siya naibibigay sa payee. Kasi, parang, kunyari, na-draw yung check ng December 28, 2021, tapos naibigay lang yung check sa payee ng mga January 1 o January 2, 2022. So, doon, tsaka pala, parang, tsaka pala natin babawasan yung accounts payable sa 2022. So, gagawin lang natin is i-reverse lang natin yung initial na entry na ginawa natin. Kasi, mag-recognize na tayo na parang di ba pagdating kasi ng susunod na taon, doon pa lang talaga natin babawasan yung accounts payable. So, I should note, itong treatment na to does not apply to the cash modified disbursement system or MDS account. Kasi nga, kapag dating sa cash modified disbursement system, wala naman talagang actual cash with the government servicing bank. But remember, sa mga previous discussion natin, di ba, pag mayroon tayong unused NCA, di ba, binabalik natin siya or nire-reverse natin yung initial entry natin, nung na-receive natin yung NCA. And usually, at the end of the reporting period, sinisiro out yung cash MDS account. So, next naman, what if naman mayroong cancel checks? So, paano ba natin masasabi na mayroong cancel checks? So, cancel checks are canceled when they become stale, voided, or spoiled. So, paano ba masasabi na stale na yung checks? So, simulang sa common knowledge natin about sa stale checks, magiging stale yung check kapag it has been outstanding for over 6 months from its date. So, I should note, replacement checks may be issued for cancel checks and that were already released to payees upon submission or of the cancel checks to the accounting unit. So, cancel checks are reverted back to the cash. So, pag entry, box na tayo what if kapag yung cancel check is pertaining to MDS check. So, paano ba magiging entry niya? So, for the current year, it will be cash modified disbursement, system regular debit, credit accounts payable. And what if naman pag prior period or yung cancellation is pertaining siya sa stale, voided, or spoiled MDS checks in prior year. So, paano magiging entry niya? So, it will be debit accumulated surplus or deficit debit, credit, accounts payable. So bakit, ma'am, bakit po sa accumulated surplus or deficit? Like I said kanina, di ba yung cash modified disbursement system is sinisiro out siya at the end of each period. Kasi nga, di ba, parang kapag may unused NCA, binabalik natin ulit. And since prior period na yun, and if pertaining siya sa prior period or yung cancel checks is pertaining siya sa MDS checks in prior period, ibig sabihin, wala na talaga sa book natin yung mismong MDS checks. Parang naibalik na natin yun. So, parang zero out na. So, ano i-reverse natin? Zero out na nga yung cash modified disbursement system. So, dahil doon, instead ng cash modified disbursement system regular yung i-debit natin, it will be accumulated surplus or deficit. So, what if naman pag-cancel commercial checks? What if naman commercial checks yung na-cancel? So, kapag yung commercial checks yung na-cancel, if for the current year, it will be debit, cash in bank local currency account, debit, accounts payable, credit rather. Paano pag naman yung commercial checks is pertaining siya sa prior year or prior period, then still same pa rin. Kasi nga, yung cash in bank local currency account, di man natin siya sinisiro out at the end of each period. So, yung cash in bank na yun, ay yung amount ng cash in bank local currency account from the previous year, yun pa rin yung magiging balance sa atin or parang mag-roll over siya sa next period. So that's why kapag prior period, still yung entry natin will be cash in bank, local currency account, debit, credit, accounts payable. So if a replacement check is issued, yung replacement check is recorded in the regular manner. So normal lang, as if parang yung entry na ginagawa mo pag nagbabayad ka talaga, it will be accounts payable, debit, credit, cash. Next is petty cash fund. So, again, define natin what is petty cash fund. So, petty cash fund refers to the amount granted to duly designated petty cash fund custodian for payment of authorized petty or miscellaneous expenses which cannot be conveniently paid through checks or ADA. So, yung petty cash fund, meron siyang guidelines sa sinusunod. Bago tayo mag-establish ng petty cash fund, meron tayong guidelines na sinusunod. So, ano-ano yun? First, the head of agency should approve the amount of petty cash fund to be established. It should be sufficient to defray recurring petty expenses for 1 month. So, parang magkakaroon tayo ng research or study kung magkano ba dapat yung amount na i-set up na petty cash fund or petty cash, ay kung magkano yung i-set up natin petty cash fund. Tapos parang aalamin natin magkano ba yung mga petty expenses ma-incur natin within 1 month. So, ulit, kailangan yung petty cash fund na i-establish natin is sufficient to defray recurring petty expenses for 1 month. Next. So, next guideline is petty cash fund custodian should be properly bonded whenever the established amount of petty cash fund exceeds 5,000. So, same as to cash advances, bonded din yung petty cash custodian. So, para once na merong parang ginamit niya illegally yung petty cash fund, may makukuha pa rin yung government agency. Next, so sabi, petty cash fund should be maintained using the IMPRES system. So same as to business entity, di ba? Yung usual na alam natin, pertaining sa petty cash fund. So it maintained using the IMPRES system. So paano ba yung concept ng IMPRES system? So yung IMPRES system kasi, parang cash account siya or fund siya, tapos parang yun yung gagamitin to pay small routine expenses and it is also regularly replenished in order to maintain a fixed balance. So, ganun yung concept ng IMPRES system. Next, so petty cash fund should be kept separately from other advances or collections and should not be used to pay regular expenses, such as yung mga rentals, electricity, water, and the like. Kasi nga, from the name itself, petty. So parang yung mga petty expenses lang yung ginagamit natin na yung mga petty expenses lang yung para pinagagamitan natin ng petty cash fund. Kaya nga nag-establish tayo ng petty cash fund para doon. So, if usual lang na expenses like yung mga rentals, pwede na doon yung cash advances. Next, petty cash fund payments should exceed 15,000 for each transaction, except when otherwise authorized by law or by the COA. So, meaning lang nun, if more than 15,000 na yung bibili natin or gagamitin na, yung bibili natin o ibabayaran natin sa nating expenses, gagamitin na natin is yung normal disbursement, which involves nga yung maraming approval, gano'n, or yung gagawa tayo ng disbursement voucher, tapos ipapa-approve natin, tapos isa-certify, so gano'n. So, I should note, splitting of transactions to avoid exceeding the ceiling is prohibited. So, bakit ang isang ginagawa, iba, try nilang gawin yon. Kasi nga, kapag nag-disburse tayo through the disbursement voucher, ano yun, medyo hassle. Why? Kasi nga, maraming approval. Diba? Parang, di ba, like I state based on a previous discussion, di ba, inalam natin yung parang, di ba, per officer, di ba? Parang yung disbursement voucher, dumadaw siya per officer. Tapos, may mag-approve, isa-certify, tapos ibibigay sa susunod na authorized person. Tapos, siya, after pagkabigay, i-review niya ulit, tapos i-approve. Tapos, bibigay ulit sa panibagong officer. So, kapag mayroong kulang na signatory from those authorized person, di ma-approve yung disbursement. Sa petty cash fund kasi, hindi siya ganun. Parang, once may receipt ka lang, papakita mo lang, then pwede lang gamitin yung petty cash fund. Kaya iba, minsan ginagawa nila, tinatry nilang i-split kasi nga, di ba, bawal mag-exceed ng 15,000. Kasi nga masyadong hassle. If disbursement voucher yung gagamitin nila instead na petty cash fund. Next, a canvas from at least 3 suppliers is required for purchases amounting to 1,000 and above, except for purchases made while on official travel. So, dito, yung government agency, parang may silang pinipill up na form. And nakalagay doon, yung nahanap na lang supplier. And usually, kung sino yung, syempre yung lowest na cost, doon sa tatlong nakamit sa supplier, yun yung pinipili. Next, na guideline. So, petty cash fund disbursement should be supported by properly accomplished and approved petty cash vouchers, invoices, ORs, or other evidence of disbursement. So, same lang sa cash advances. Kailangan din na at cash advances. So, normal na disbursement. So, kailangan din natin na supported yung mga petty cash vouchers. Yung mga kailangan supported siya ng petty cash vouchers, invoices, ORs, or other supporting documents. Just to ensure na valid talaga or parang existing talaga yung binabayaran yung expenses na binabayaran natin. Next, the guideline is replenishment shall be made as soon as disbursement reach at least 75% or as needed. So, ano bang 75% to? So, 75% ng mismong petty cash fund. So, kunwari, 10,000 yung petty cash fund natin. So, if naka 75 ka na, 7,500 na di-disburse, then i-replenish na yung petty cash fund. Next, at the end of the year, the petty cash fund custodian shall submit all unreplenished petty cash vouchers to the accounting unit para i-record na sa book ng accounts ng accounting unit yun. So next and last the guideline is unused balance of the petty cash fund should not be closed at year-end. So, kailan lang ba pwedeng i-close yung petty cash fund? So, kino-close lang siya if ever yung petty cash custodian is na-terminate, kaya nag-retire or dismissal ng petty cash custodian, then that's the time na doon pa lang i-close yung petty cash fund. Eh ma'am, what if, kunwari, nag-leave lang si petty cash custodian? Parang makaklose na rin po ba yung petty cash fund? The answer is no. Eh ma'am, kung di makaklose, paano mangyayari? Eh, naka-leave nga. Kaya naka-leave na 3 araw. So, sino parang sino may mag-take over nun? Ganun. So, if ever na ganun nangyari, ang mangyayari lang, ang gagawin lang muna nila, ang gagawin nila is, parang magkakaroon sila ng special order na wala si petty cash custodian and si ganitong officer yung magta-take over or siya muna yung siya muna yung magiging custodian temporarily hanggat wala si petty cash custodian. So, example tayo. So, petty cash fund of 200 of Wash Company appeared as follows on December 31, 2021. So, yung cash niya is 97.60. Tapos, yung mga petty cash vouchers for break-in, 19.40. Postage, 40 pesos. Balloon per special occasion, 18. Meals, and 25. So, pag tinotal natin yan, mag-equal siya sa total na petty cash fund na 200. So, ano ba yung mga entries na involved sa petty cash fund? So, first is yung establishment ng petty cash fund. So, kung mag-establish tayo, di ba sabi nga sa problem natin, yung petty cash fund is amount din siya na 200. So, kunwari lang, wala pa yung petty cash fund, mag-establish lang tayo. So, pag i-record natin siya, it will be petty cash fund, debit, credit, cash, modified disbursement system, regular na 200. Since yung pera na pinambabayad natin through petty cash fund, yung pinagagalingan lang din nun is yung NCA na na-receive natin. So, okay na, na-establish na natin petty cash fund. So, susunod na is mag-replenish na tayo. So, yung petty cash fund is replenish. So, during na replenishment, binibigay ni custodian lahat ng receipt, pati yung mga petty cash voucher na may pirma na na-receive nila yung pera or ginamit sa petty cash expenses. So, ibibigay nila yun kay accounting unit. So, para kasi si accounting unit yung magre-record. So, paano i-record yung petty cash fund pag nag-replenish na? Then, debit lahat ng expenses na incur. So, freight in, 90.40 pesos. Postage expenses, 40 pesos. Miscellaneous expenses, 80 pesos. Meal expenses, 25 pesos. Credit, cash modified disbursement system, or regular, na 102.40 pesos. Eh ma'am, what if naman, kunwari, yung petty cash fund is unreplenished. So, hindi parang nangyari is yung merong unreplenished vouchers tinari ganito siya. Parang at the end of the reporting unit, nagkaroon ng expenses ulit na incurred and hindi siya naisama dun sa mga vouchers na binigay ni petty cash custodian kay accounting unit. So, dahil hindi siya naibigay during the replenishment, ang mangyayari doon sa mga unreplenished vouchers is i-report siya sa accounting unit para i-record yung expenses na incurred at the end of the period na hindi na-report kay accounting during replenishment. So, yung magiging entry niya, instead na i-credit natin sa cash, MDS regular, i-credit natin siya sa mismong petty cash fund. Still, yung debit niya will be expenses incurred. Tapos, isa pang entry na involved or na-incur natin during pagdating sa petty cash fund is yung pag-close. So, what if, kunwari, nag-retire nga si petty cash fund custodian and na-close na yung petty cash fund. Paano natin siya i-record? So, it will be debit, cash collecting officer, 97.60, credit, petty cash fund, 97.60. So, bakit cash collecting officer yung cash account na gagamit natin? Kasi once na mag-retire na and i-close na yung petty cash fund, yung cash na on hand, ibabalik na siya sa cashier or treasury department ng government agency na yun. And after ma-record yun, magsisiro out na yung petty cash fund. Next, what if nagkaroon ng cash shortage or overage? So, pag ganon, the disbursing officer is liable for any cash shortage, while any cash overage naman that it cannot satisfactorily explain to the editor is forfeited in favor of the government. So, I should note the failure of public officer to have duly forthcoming any public funds or property which is chargeable upon demand by any duly authorized officer should be prima facie evidence that he has put such missing funds or property to personal use. So, para natin i-entry yung cash shortage or overage. So, remind ko lang ulit, yung cash shortage or overage is na-identify lang siya once na nag-audit na si auditor. So, minsan kasi, syempre, kasi di ba doon palang bibilangan or parang doon palang titingnan o i-check, i-verify kung yung cash na accountable is equal sa accountability, cash accountability. So, ma-check lang yun during the audit. So, if makita na may balance, doon pala makikita kung meron bang cash shortage or overage. So, what if may cash shortage? Magiging entry niya will be due from officers and employees, advance, debit, credit, advances for to or the appropriate account. Kasi nga, di ba, sabi nga, kapag may cash shortage, ang liable doon is si disbursing officer. What if naman kapag may cash overage, magiging entry niya is cash collecting officers, debit, credit, miscellaneous income. Kasi kapag may cash overage and hindi siya na-justify or di niya na-explain mabuti ni disbursing officer kung bakit may overage, then as if parang income na siya ng government. Kasi parang yung overage na yon is i-remit na natin sa government. And remember, di ba, based sa PD 1445, lahat ng mga kolekta natin is i-remit na natin sa treasury. So, pagka-entry natin ng cash collecting officers, debit, miscellaneous income, credit, mag-record din tayo ng cash treasury agency deposit regular, debit, credit, cash collecting officer. Next, what if naman kapag merong dishonored checks? So, paano ba natin masasabi pag may dishonored checks? So, dishonored checks, these are the checks that is not accepted when presented for payment. In given example, a check returned by the bank because of lack of sufficient funds or tinatawag nating bounce check. So, kapag may dishonored check, yung drawer ng dishonored check is liable siya for the amount of the check and all penalties resulting from the dishonor without prejudice to his criminal liability for a bounce check. So, kapag may bounce check, si collecting officer mag-i-issue siya ng notice of dishonor checks to the drawer and any endorser. Kapag, kunwari, di ba, kailangan dapat mag-i-issue ng notice of dishonor checks si collecting officer. Kapag nag-fail siya, hindi siya nakapag-issue ng notice of dishonor check, and pag di niya na-issue yung notice, then yung dishonor check become his personal liability. And kapag yung na-issue na personal, yung na-issue, di ba, si collecting officer nag-issue siya, pero hindi niya naibigay sa drawer and any endorser, then yung drawer na yun, pati na rin yung mga endorser, marirelieve sila sa liability. So, isa pang after pagka-issue ni collecting officer ng notice of dishonor checks to the drawer, kakasal niya na yung related OR. So, as you note, a check refused by the drawing bank when presented within 90 days from its date is a prima facie evidence that the drawer has knowledge about the insufficiency of his funds, unless na lang the drawer pays the check in full or makes arrangement with the drawing bank for the full payment of the check within 5 banking days after receiving the notice of the dishonor. Tapos, a dishonor check should be settled by payment in cash or certified check. So, in dishonor check should not be returned to the payer unless he returned first the previous OR therefore. So, pag may dishonor check, hindi pwedeng parang hindi pwedeng gagawin ni payer or ni drawer is kapag may na-dishonor yung check, ang gagawin ni payer or ni drawer is gagawa siya ng panibagong check. So, parang ina-adjust kapag may dishonor check. So, pag may dishonor check, ang gagawin lang natin is mag-record tayo ng other receivables account. So, pag yung collections from this dishonor checks is remitted to the BTR, magiging entry niya for the current year is other receivables, debit, credit, cash, treasury, agency, deposit. So, bakit ba natin kina-credit cash, treasury, or agency, deposit, regular na account? So, di ba, sabi ko nga, all under PD 1445, lahat ng collections must be remitted to BTR. And since na-remit na siya sa BTR, di ba? So, and since na-limit na siya sa BTR, kaya ang credit natin is cash, treasury, agency, deposit. So, what if naman pag yung dishonor check is from the prior period? So, ano yung magiging entry niya? So, other receivable, debit, credit, accumulated surplus, or deficit. So, bakit accumulated surplus or deficit account? So, di ba remember yung isa sa mga closing entries natin, isa sa mga accounts na kina-close natin is yung cash, treasury, agency, deposit. So, di ba parang at the end of the period, kina-close natin yung cash, treasury, agency, deposit sa accumulated surplus or deficit. So, since kino-close siya sa accumulated surplus or deficit, then yun yung gagawin, yun i-credit natin in case na yung dishonor check is pertaining siya sa prior period. Next, what if naman yung collection is remitted to authorized government depository bank. So, magiging entry lang niya is other receivable, debit, credit, cash in bank, local. So, regardless, sorry. Wait. So, regardless if yung dishonor check is from the current year or in the prior year. Next. So, punta tayo sa bank reconciliation. So, bank reconciliation statement is a report that is prepared for the purpose of bringing the balance of cash per records and per bank statement into agreement. So, bakit ba tayo nagpe-prepare ng bank reconciliation? So, bank reconciliation kasi is part siya ng internal control to ensure yung correctness ng cash records and as deterrent to fraud. So, ginagawa to just to ensure na yung cash na nakarecord sa books is same dun sa cash na nakarecord sa bank. So, a government entity prepares monthly bank reconciliations for each of the bank accounts it maintains using the adjusted balance method. So, highlight ko ulit, adjusted balance method. Kapag gagawa sila ng report, parang adjusted balance yung ipapakita natin. So, from the adjusted amounts ng books to adjusted balance. Tapos, mula sa unadjusted balance ng bank to adjusted balance. I know, pamilya naman na kayo kung paano ginagawa yung bank reconciliation report. Tapos, note ko ulit, it should be prepared within 10 days from the receipt of the monthly bank statement. So, bakit receipt? Kasi minsan, bakit within 10 days from receipt of the monthly bank statement, hindi at the end of the period. So, minsan kasi, minsan, nalilate yung dating ng monthly bank statement. So, kunyari, for the month of January, na-receive lang siya noong January 11. So, paano kung makakagawa, di ba, ng bank reconciliation report within 10 days at the end, if, for example, at the end of the period, if di mo pa natatanggap yung monthly bank statement. So, parang mag-i-start yung count once na ma-receive na natin yung bank statement. So, bank reconciliation must be prepared in 4 copies. So, yung 4 copies ngayon is it will be submitted within 20 days from the receipt of bank statement to the following. So, first, kay co-editor. Second na copy, kay head of agency. Yung third na copy, kay accounting division siya isa-submit. And last, yung fourth copy is kay bank if necessary. So, a journal entry voucher should be prepared to record any reconciling items if there are any. Next is yung cash equivalence. So, cash equivalence. So, as defined in PPSAS 2.8, cash equivalents are short-term, highly liquid investments that are readily convertible to known amounts of cash and which are subjected to a significant risk of changes. So, same lang din. Para tayo mag-record ng cash equivalents sa business entity, magre-record tayo ng cash equivalents if it is acquired within 3 months before their scheduled maturity date. So, kapag within 3 months before maturity date, then it will be recorded as cash equivalent. So, example niya, treasury bills. Ma'am, di ba government yung nag-i-issue ng mga treasury bills? So, ano yung bibilin po sila? Yes, possible yun. So, may mga cases or minsan, may mga government agency na bumibili din ng treasury bills. So, if yung government agency bumili siya ng treasury bills, same lang yung accounting treatment sa commercial. So, as if, yung government agency na yun, as if ano siya, commercial entity na bumili ng treasury bill. So, tapos na tayo sa cash and cash equivalent. So, punta na tayo sa receivables and investment. So, ano ba yung receivables? So, receivables represent claims for cash or other assets from other entities. And ano may mga example ng receivables? Then, one is yung accounts receivable. So, it pertains or it refers to amounts due from customers arising from regular trade and business transactions. Another example is yung notes receivable. So, it represents claims, usually with interest, for which a formal instrument of credit is issued as evidence of debt, such as promissory notes. Another example is loans receivable. So, it pertains or it is used in the PTR and GO national government books to recognize loans extended by the national government to government financial institutions or GFIs or GOCCs covered by loan agreement. And pati yung, it also covers other receivables such as interest receivable due from employees, officers, or other NGAs, yung mga receivable, and dividend receivable. So, anything, lahat ng receivable will be under this account. So, yung measurement niya is isasabay ko siya mamaya. Sabay ng investment. So, punta naman tayo sa investment. So, investment, these are the assets held by an entity for the accretion of wealth through distribution, such as interest, royalties, and rentals for capital appreciation or for other benefits to the investing entity such as those obtained through trading relationships. So example niya is yung mga investment in equity, investment in debt instrument, ganon. So, punta tayo dito sa type ng financial asset. So, itong table na to, pertain siya sa measurement ng investment and pati na rin sa mga receivable. So, yung cover ng investment dyan is yung financial asset at fair value through surplus or deficit, held to maturity, pati na rin yung mga available for sale financial assets. While yung receivable is yung loans and receivables. So, sige, explain natin. Kapag yung mga financial asset at fair value through surplus or deficit, yung example niya is yung investment in quoted stocks or bonds. So, ano yung measurement niya? Fair value lang. Ma'am, kung fair value lang, ano mangyayari sa transaction cost? It will be expense outright. So, ano po yung subsequent measurement ng mga financial assets at fair value through surplus or deficit? So, same fair value pa rin. And yung changes in fair value are recognized in surplus or deficit account. So, parang ito yung profit or loss counterpart ng isang government agency. So, what if naman yung type of financial asset is held to maturity? So, ano ba muna yung mga example ng held to maturity na financial asset? So, ito yung mga investment in bonds and other securities held to be held until maturity. So, should note, only debt securities lang yung can be classified as held to maturity. So, ano na natin kung ano yung mga example. So, ano ba kasi yung held to maturity? So, held to maturity, these are non-derivative assets which fixed or terminable payments and fixed maturity that an entity has the positive intention and ability to hold to maturity. Hold until maturity rather. So, ano yung initial measurement kapag yung financial asset is held to maturity? So, it will be measured as fair value plus transaction cost. Ano yung magiging subsequent measurement? Amortized cost. Next is yung mga loans and receivables. And yung mga examples nga niya is lahat ng receivables such as accounts, notes, non-receivables. So, or any non-derivative financial assets with fixed or determinable payments and are not quoted in an active market. So, paano yung initial measurement ng mga loans and receivables? Same lang sa held to maturity. So, it will be fair value plus transaction cost. And any subsequent measurement, still same lang sa held to maturity. It will be measured at amortized cost. Last na type of financial asset is yung available for sale financial assets. So, ano ba itong mga available for financial assets? So, these are non-derivative financial assets that are designated as available for sale or are not classified under the other categories. So, an example niya, lahat na investment in stock or bonds ay hindi classified under loans and receivables and fair value or financial asset through fair value at surplus or deficit. So, ano yung initial measurement? Still, fair value plus transaction cost. Paano naman yung subsequent measurement niya? So, subsequent measurement niya, hindi na amortized cost. It will be fair value na. And yung changes in fair value are recognized in equity. So, highlight ko ulit, kapag financial asset at fair value through surplus or deficit, yung subsequent measurement niya will be fair value and changes in fair value are recognized in surplus or deficit. Pero pagdating naman kapag naman yung financial asset available for sale, yung subsequent measurement niya is same fair value, pero yung changes in fair value are recognized in equity. So, ang counterpart niya sa business entity is yung natawag nating FD TOCHI. O yung FD through other comprehensive income. So, example tayo. So, initial measurement, what? Yung magiging entry kapag financial asset per value, surplus or deficit will be debit financial assets held for trading, credit cash in bank, local currency o Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Tapos, mag-record din tayo ng other financial charges for the transaction cost. Kasi nga, kapag financial asset at fair value through surplus or deficit, transaction costs are expensed outright. So, debit nga ng other financial charges, credit, cash in bank, local currency, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. And as you can see then, yung other financial charges, yung account code niya start at 5. So, it is an expense account. So, ano naman entry kapag naman yung financial asset is not fair value through surplus or deficit? So, it will be debit, investment in treasury bonds, foreign, credit, cash in bank, local currency, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. In case na yung investment is pertain sa foreign treasury bonds. So, yung investment in debit, pertaining siya sa kung anong klaseng investment yung i-invest o yung bibilin ng isang government agency. So, punta naman tayo sa subsequent measurement. So, what if yung financial asset held for trading? Tapos, ang nangyari daw parang at the end of reporting period, December 31, 2021, for example, yung financial asset, yung per value niya is naging 600,000, while yung carrying amount niya is 500,000. So, magiging entry niya is financial asset held for trading, 100,000, tapos credit gain from changes in fair value of financial instrument. So, this is the entry to recognize changes in fair value of the financial assets held for trading. So, what if naman pag financial assets classified as available for sale? So, same na problem, December 31, 2021, yung financial asset, meron siyang fair value na 600,000, while yung carrying amount niya is 500,000. Ano yung magiging entry to recognize the change in fair value of the available for sale? It will be debit, investment in bonds, 100,000, credit, unrealized gain or loss from changes in the fair value of financial assets. So as you can see, di ba, yung account code na unrealized gain or loss from changes in fair value of financial asset is 3, meaning it is an equity account. On the other hand, yung sa financial asset held for trading, kinedit siya sa gain from changes in fair value of financial instrument. And yung account code niya starts at 4, meaning it is a revenue account. It is a revenue account. So what if naman if at amortized cost? So for example, on January 1, 2014, an NGA granted loan amounting to 500,000 to an LGU with an annual interest of 6%. So on December 30, 2014, the LGU made a partial payment of 100,000. So on January 1, 2014, yung initial measurement niya will be loans receivable, local government, since nag-granted nga ng loan, credit, cash in bank, local currency, current account, amounting to 500,000. So, ano yung subsequent measurement niya? So, on December 30, 2014, cash in bank, local currency, current account, 130,000. Credit, yung loans receivable, 100,000 since sabi sa problem, nagkaroon ng partial payment of 100,000. And last, yung 30, pertaining to interest income. So, ma'am, paano po ba nakuha 30,000? So, ang computation lang niya is 500,000 times 6%. So, iba mapapansin nyo, di ba parang hindi siya katulad sa normal na na nakagawa natin na amortized cost. Di ba kapag narinig amortized cost, tapos agad yung amortization schedule. So, bakit parang masyadong straight yung naging computation ng interest income? So, kasi sa problem na to, ipwede siya sa loan with stated interest rate. And we presume na yung stated interest rate is equal lang sa effective interest rate since wala namang sinabi. Or ibang sinabi, ang sinabi lang is meron siyang annual interest rate na 6%. And since equal lang yung stated interest rate and effective interest rate, walang recognition ng discount or premium. So, kaya dati yung ginawa na amortization table. Pero in case na meron, then gagawa tayo ng amortization schedule. And yung interest income will be yung carrying amount multiply sa effective interest rate. So next is yung derivatives. So ano ba yung mga derivatives? So derivatives is a financial instrument or other contract that derives its value from the changes in value of some other other underlying asset or other instrument. So bakit ba meron tayong derivatives? Ang purpose niya is for risk management. So ano ba yung risk management? It is a process of identifying the desired level of risk, identifying the actual level of risk, and altering the latter to equal the former. So, ano ba yung characteristic ng isang derivative? So, yung characteristic niya is its value changes in response to the change in an underlying. Another characteristic is it requires no initial net investment or only very minimal initial investment. And last na characteristic niya is it is settled at a future date. So, kapag sabi natin underlying, it is the specified price, rate, or other variable. In given example, interest rate, security or commodity price, foreign exchange rate, index of prices or rates, etc., including a scheduled event that may or may not occur. So, example niya is mga put option, ganon. So, yung hedging, papasok siya under derivatives. But, hindi ko na siya i-explain further. So, usually yung derivatives, hindi siya madalas na ina-acquire na isang government agency. Pero para natin nire-recognize or para natin may measure yung derivatives. So, it is usually recognized at fair value on the date on which a derivative contract is entered into and are subsequently measured at fair value. So, any gains or losses arising from changes in the fair value of derivatives are taken directly to surplus or deficit. So, next, ito na tayo sa impairment of financial assets. So, si entity, need niyang i-assess at the end of each reporting period whether there is any objective evidence that a financial asset or group of financial assets is impaired. So, if ever na kunyari, i-assess nila and nakita nila na may impaired talaga or may financial asset na may impair, so entity should measure the amount of loss at the difference between the carrying amount of the asset and the present value of estimated future cash flows discounted at the financial assets original effective interest rate. So, yung carrying amount of the asset should be reduced either directly or through the use of an allowance account. So, the amount of the loss should be recognized in surplus or deficit. In case of accounts receivable, yung allowance for impairment should be provided in an amount based on the collectibility of receivable balances and evaluation of such factors as aging of accounts, collection experiences of the agency, respective loss experiences, and identified doubtful accounts. So, di ko na pa-discuss kung paano since yung computation ng impairment of financial assets sa isang government agency is same lang din sa business entity. So, alam na natin paano siya i-entry. So, in case na kunyari ang impaired is yung accounts receivable, ang ating 1,000, paano siya i-record? So, magkakaroon tayo ng impairment loss, loans and receivables, debit, credit, allowance for impairment. accounts receivable. So sabi ko nga kanina, di ba, kapag in case of accounts receivable, magkakaroon ng allowance for impairment in case na merong impairment sa accounts receivable. What if naman ang na-impair is loans receivable from an LGU amounted to 50,000? So, magiging entry niya is impairment, loss and receivable, same pa rin, 50,000. Ang iba lang is yung klase ng allowance for impairment. So, kung kanina, nakalagay na pertaining siya sa accounts receivable, dito naman, dahil ang na-impair is loans receivable from an LGU, yung allowance for impairment natin na gagamitin is yung pertaining din sa loans receivable local government unit amounting to 50,000. So next, paano naman gagawin natin? Magde-recognize tayo ng financial asset. So, the recognition is a process of removing a previously recognized asset, liability, or equity from the statement of financial position. So, kailan ba tayo magde-recognize ng financial asset? So, magde-recognize tayo ng financial asset when and only when the contractual rights to the cash flows from the financial asset expire or are waived. O kaya, the entity transfers the financial assets provided the following conditions exist. So, the entity transfers substantially all the risks and rewards of the ownership. Ownership of the financial asset. O kaya, the entity has not retained control over the financial asset. So once this criteria is, kapag nangyari to, then nasa time na magde-recognize tayo ng financial asset. So, paano yung magiging entry niya? So example, an LGU paid its outstanding loan balance amounting to 1 million to a non-government to a national government agency. So the NGA, upon receipt of the payment from the LGU, will recognize its receivable account from said entity because its contractual rights to the cash flows from the financial asset expire. So, di ba, na-hit niya yung isang criteria na which is yung the contractual rights to the cash flows from the financial asset expire or are waived. So, dahil nga wala ng contractual rights, then magde-recognize na tayo ng financial asset. So, entry niya will be cash in bank, local currency, current account, debit, 1 million, and credit, loans receivable, local government units na 1 million. And what if merong impairment losses na previously recognized? So, pag ganun, parang dide-recognize na rin natin yung allowance for impairment loss, yung allowance for impairment. So, allowance for impairment, loans receivable, local government units, debit, credit, loans receivable, local government units. So, that ends our discussion for financial assets.